You know that story we've all heard about depression, that it's all about a chemical imbalance, not enough of that happy chemical, serotonin. Yeah, that idea has been everywhere. It's shaped how literally millions of us think about mental health. But here's the thing. What if that simple story isn't the whole story?
Okay, get this. This is a direct quote from a huge, and I mean massive, 2022 review of research from University College London. They looked at decades of studies. We're talking tens of thousands of people, and their conclusion, published in a major journal, was a bombshell. They found no clear, convincing evidence that serotonin levels have anything to do with depression.
And yet, despite that bombshell finding, a whopping 85 to 90% of the public still believes that depression is caused by a chemical imbalance. That's a staggering number, right? It just shows this huge gap between what many of us believe and what the science is actually saying. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into.
So that leaves us with this giant question, doesn't it? Could a foundational idea of modern mental health just be wrong? I mean, if that simple chemical link isn't really there, what does that even mean? And maybe even more interesting, what has serotonin actually been up to in our brains?
All right, so let's get into it. To really wrap our heads around this, we have to look at the evidence. Why is this super popular theory suddenly on such shaky ground with scientists? Okay, so the big UCL review was really thorough. They looked at it from every angle. First, they compared serotonin levels in people with depression and people without. The result? No difference. Then they tried something else. They actually lowered serotonin levels in hundreds of healthy volunteers. You'd think that would cause depression, right? Nope, didn't happen. And finally, they looked at the genetics, the gene that moves serotonin around the brain. Again, huge studies found no link to depression. The evidence just wasn't there.
So, while that chemical link was looking super weak, they did find a really strong link to something else, and that was stressful life events. It was pretty clear. The more stress and trauma someone had experienced, the more likely they were to be depressed. It's a huge clue that our life circumstances, not just brain chemistry, play a massive role.
And this, for me, is where the story gets really, really cool. Because when a big, old theory starts to crumble, it opens up a brand new mystery. If serotonin isn't the happy chemical, then what on earth is it?
So you might be wondering, how did we get it wrong for so long? Well, a big part of it was the tools we were using. They were kind of blunt. Early methods couldn't really isolate serotonin from other chemicals, or they couldn't tell the difference between its job during brain development versus in an adult brain. Think of it like this. It's like trying to understand traffic problems by just counting every single car on every highway at once. You get a big number, but you have no idea what's actually happening on any given street. You miss all the nuance. To figure it out, you need to zoom in.
And that brings us to a really clever technique used in a 2016 study. Researchers basically performed a kind of genetic surgery. They found the specific gene that makes serotonin. And then, using a harmless virus, they delivered a genetic off switch right into the brains of adult mice. And this is the crucial part. They could turn off serotonin production only in the adult brain. For the first time, they could see what happens when you just take serotonin away from a fully formed brain without messing with anything else.
And the results? Well, they were not what anyone expected. Not at all.
Okay, so here's the first shocker. You take away the happy chemical. You'd expect the mice to get anxious or depressed, right? Well, their anxiety levels didn't change one bit, nothing. But what did change was wild. The mice became super hyperactive, and their whole daily rhythm, their sleep-wake cycle, was just thrown completely out of whack.
Basically, their internal body clocks went haywire. Mice are active at night, right? Well, these mice started their day earlier and stayed up way later. All told, their active period stretched out by more than 2 hours. That's a huge change.
But the most shocking discovery, the thing that really made the researchers scratch their heads, was this. The mice lost the ability to take a siesta. So, what's a mouse siesta? It's not just a little nap. It's a built-in 2-hour period of deep rest and sleep that mice are supposed to take right in the middle of their active phase at night. It's a core part of their biology. And in the mice without any serotonin, it just vanished. Poof, gone. Every single one of them just kept going, all night long, with no break.
Okay, so why does a mouse's siesta matter to us? Well, these findings are a really big deal. They suggest that we might have been looking at serotonin all wrong this whole time.
Here's the new big idea. Maybe serotonin isn't the happy chemical. Maybe it's the rhythm chemical. Its main job might be to regulate the fundamental patterns of our day,
our activity levels, our sleep, our biological clocks. It's the conductor of our daily rhythm.
And if that's true, it changes everything. It could totally reframe how we look at conditions like ADHD, which is all about hyperactivity. It opens up new ways to understand sleep disorders. And think about it, disrupted sleep is a classic symptom of depression. Maybe that's not just a side effect. Maybe it's actually getting closer to the root cause, to what serotonin is really doing.
This brings us back to Professor Joanna Moncrief, the lead scientist on that huge review. She's pretty clear about it. She says, we really don't understand exactly what these drugs are doing in the brain. The old chemical imbalance story just isn't supported by the evidence. The honest truth is, science is still on the case, still figuring it all out.
You know, this whole story about serotonin is just a perfect example of how science works. It's not about having all the answers. It's a process of asking better questions and constantly rewriting what we thought we knew. What seems like a solid fact today could be tomorrow's biggest mystery. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? As science keeps digging, what other known facts about our brains are going to be the next to change?